Welcome to Coyote Tales, a podcast featuring life stories from Weatherford College alumni and friends. And now, from the Nan and Bob Kingsley building on the campus of Weatherford College, in the Coyote Studios, here's Brent Baker.
Welcome back to Coyote Tales. Brent Baker here for the Coyote and Weatherford College, and it's my pleasure to be joined by a friend of mine who is a Weatherford College alumna and a former Miss Texas, Gloria Gilbert. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Brent?
Darn good.
Good to be here.
Appreciate you doing this on short notice. I knew that you'd be comfortable behind a microphone.
No problem.
Because you and I and Dave Cowley do a morning show every day.
That's right.
But that's not what we're here to talk about.
Okay.
We're here to talk about your life and your career and how you've gotten here. And we're going to talk quite a bit about Miss Texas.
Okay. Because,
how often do you get to talk to a former Miss Texas about that experience? And we've talked about it on our morning show, but if you haven't heard that, I love hearing about that experience for you, what it meant to you, that feeling, how you got there, what Miss America was like, that whole process. And of course, you're a Weatherford College alum. We'll talk about that as well. But let's go back to the beginning and Millsap, Texas. The Gilbert family. You got to be careful what you say because you might be related.
Yes, I am related.
Right?
I am related to everyone. We are fifth generation Parker County residents on both sides of my family.
Fifth generation.
Yes. Well, I am.
That's incredible.
So I guess my children are sixth and Shepherd is seventh.
Shepherd,
so my grandbaby is seventh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seventh generation.
Right. So I don't know where to begin. Yeah. My mother went to Weatherford College.
Juanita, right?
Juanetta.
And
don't call her Juanita or you're in big trouble. She will be 100 this year.
Yeah, we're recording this in the summer of 2025. And so your mother will have a 100th birthday. About when?
July the 5th.
Okay. Wow.
Really soon.
100 years old.
Right.
So that means she probably attended Weatherford College in the 1940s.
I think her graduation was 45.
Yeah.
1945. Yes. She went to Weatherford College. She didn't graduate. She went on to some other things for career, but she played basketball here. She said they called her the Millsap Flash. I don't have evidence of that, but I'm going to trust my mother's.
Did she also go to Millsap High School like you did?
She graduated Millsap High School.
Wow. That's a really deep tradition there at Millsap.
Oh, gosh, yes. My grandfather was the commissioner out there on Bennett Road and worked at Acme Brick. So, you talk about tradition.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
But my sisters went to Weatherford College. My sister Jenny, the oldest, was Miss Weatherford College.
Oh, really? She didn't beat you out for that, did she?
Well, she's a little older than I am.
Okay.
My
a
sister.
Little. She's probably listening to this.
And then the next sister was valedictorian of her class at Weatherford College. And then my next sister went to school on music scholarships at Weatherford College.
Amazing.
It was just intended. I would be going to Weatherford College.
Were you the baby?
I'm the baby.
Okay. All right. Well, I said, were you the baby? You're still the baby,
I'm
aren't
still
you?
the baby. I sure am. I was salutatorian at the Millsap High School graduation, so I received tuition, fees, and books to come to Weatherford College.
I've got to ask, how big was your class?
40.
All right.
Yeah.
That's not nothing.
I know.
I
had to try.
Number 2 out of 40.
Yes. I was just 17 when I graduated. If Mother had held me back, I'd have been a brain.
Yeah. Well,
right?
There you go. Now, you're known not just for being Miss Texas, but for your performing in ventriloquism. And that really vaulted you there. We'll talk about Miss America in a minute and what you won there. I want to hear about how you got started. How does a little girl from Millsap, Texas, get interested in ventriloquism?
Really? Isn't that strange?
It's unusual.
It is. My grandmother was always encouraging all of us to have a talent. So every Sunday afternoon we had to perform. My sisters were all musical, and I was really bad at piano, and I really didn't like to practice. But I saw Sherry Lewis on television with lamb chops, and I thought, man, that's cool. I want to do that. So at 6 years old, I asked Santa Claus for a ventriloquist figure. And there it was, Christmas morning, Edgar Bergen's black and white 33 1/3 album, How to Be a Ventriloquist. And that's where it all began. It came with a little character named Mortimer Snurd. I started wearing my family out, I guess, with all of the practicing and talking and craziness.
How do you learn it, though? I mean, I know you had the album, but was it an instructional album?
It was instructional, don't you think?
And
It's a God-given talent. It had to be. It had to be a God-given talent. There's no ventriloquist teachers in Millsap or Weatherford.
And I don't see how you can learn it on an album either.
That's why I'm saying
Yeah,
it was a gift.
It
It would say things like, these are the consonants that are difficult to say. These are the substitution consonants you use.
Yeah.
Set
Give me an example.
Oh, B or D sound kind of the same. So butter is hard to say. So you say dutter with a D.
You practice using the D to sound more like the B,
Right.
and so your lips don't move
Mhm.
or move very little.
They better not move. They better not. But I would say, Mom, the album would say, set the timer for 30 minutes and practice in front of the mirror. So I'd say, Mom, set the timer for 30 minutes. And I can recall this. She would set the oven timer because it had a specific sound when it would go off. And I would sit in front of the mirror. I was so compliant, even to a record.
Okay, whatever you say.
So I was under the impression that if I performed everywhere I could, Lions Club, Optimist Club, which I only did that a couple of times, they get up really early.
Are you talking about as a teenager
As
or
a kid,
even a preteen?
Yeah.
You were performing
At 8,
What do you
10,
think-
12 years old.
Yeah,
I was.
what was your first performance, and do you remember that? Like about how old were you?
It was. I think I was 8, and I was in our Little Miss pageant in Weatherford. It was put on by a sorority to raise funds for something, and
Our Little Miss.
our Little Miss.
So this is pre Peach Festival days. There
I
wasn't a Miss
didn't know.
Peach.
I don't think there
was
was.
a pageant. Okay.
Yeah, there was Our Little Miss Mineral Wells, Our Little Miss Weatherford, and it had a statewide competition in Waco, and I participated in that and had a lot of fun. And then I just did some other pageants, Miss Starlight, I think is what it was called. Can't remember very well. Did pretty well there. And the trophies were like 5 feet tall. They're ridiculous, but that was a lot
Probably
of fun.
taller than you were, nearly.
Almost.
that
But I
time.
just, I was under the impression that if I were paid in a performance, I would be considered a professional and I wouldn't be able to enter the Miss Texas pageant. I don't know how I got that ruling.
Because that's not the truth.
I don't know. I don't even know if
Okay.
it's true. I doubt it's true.
So that makes me think that you had Miss Texas in your sights
Oh.
early on.
Oh, since I was 3 or 4 or 5 years old, we would all watch the pageants on that Saturday night, and I would pretend I was in it. I'd wear the little
Wow.
clicky heels from Mott's Five and Dime. You remember that store?
I've heard of it.
It was on South Main, and I'd get a beach towel and pin it around me to be my robe, and I'd carry a baton for my scepter, and Mother would create some kind of crown, and we just had a blast watching.
Wow.
And watching the talent competition and who's going to win. And I guess I was super competitive even at
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, something like that.
I bet they didn't have ventriloquists either.
No, they did. When opera ladies would come on, I would just go hide behind the couch because I thought they were so boring. And I'd go back there going, whoa, whoa, and make fun of it. But
But-
ventriloquists were odd. They were different. I just loved going out there and performing, and I didn't even know if I was good or not. I just liked to be on stage.
Yeah.
I guess I was good when I was little. I don't know. People just thought I was a phenomenon. I think they're like, gosh, she's weird.
Especially at your age
Mhm.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
My sisters would write my script.
really,
Mm-hmm. Yes, they would write my script. I would always have a song to sing, which was always mostly patriotic. This Land Is Your Land, or Side by Side. Do you remember that song? Oh, we
Yes.
ain't got a barrel of money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That was our song.
so that reminds me of a question, because in order to do what you do and still perform, but especially back then, you had to have some musical talent as well. You
I
can't.
could carry a tune.
Yeah, but you can obviously sing. I mean, I've heard you sing. You can sing. Did you ever have any formal training in music?
Oh, I always tried.
I mean, you said you played piano,
Mhm,
but
I tried.
were you ever in vocals or choir? Or
I
voice
was.
Lessons,
I was in
or-
choir at Weatherford College.
Is that right?
They didn't have a choir at Millsap, but I would have done.
They didn't have a choir at Millsap.
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
They didn't.
So you had to have that training.
I
That-
did.
That was a part of your act, and is
Mhm.
a part of your act. So it wasn't just ventriloquism.
No, I sing along with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to sing by myself on the stage.
But you'll sing.
I really
you'll
wouldn't.
sing with, and I'm only going to say
Homer.
I'm only going to say this word.
Don't you say that word.
Once.
I will leave this room.
The D-U-M-M-Y word.
Figure.
You don't say that. I know.
I taught you the right word.
So you call it a figure,
Yes.
or him or her, a
Character, figure.
Okay. And so you sing along. You still do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. I saw you do it at a banquet recently. I think it was for Grace House.
That's right.
And you're singing, and the figure
Homer
is singing every other like beat. Like he's a word, you're a word. Back and forth, and you're having to switch. And I mean, I don't understand how you do that.
Can you imagine being in my head? Woo! It's crazy in there.
All right. So, did Miss Texas come? Obviously, it was after high school.
Right. I moved into the Weatherford College dorms.
Okay.
Yes, I moved into the dorms, even though I lived in Millsap. I did. My mom and dad wanted me to have that experience.
They wanted you to have a traditional college experience. And the dorms, which that building no longer there.
I don't think so.
But on campus, not in a house.
No,
dorm,
I was on campus.
Which back in the way back, they would have houses around the campus. Really, the old campus. You were at the current campus, but
okay.
But okay, so you're in the dorm that's since been torn down. You were not in Vicki Jerry Durant Hall.
No, it wasn't. But you know what? It didn't matter. It was so much fun to me being from Millsap. I hadn't been anywhere. Just
really,
not really.
Even through performing, you hadn't.
Just locally.
Locally,
but I hadn't been like big places.
Okay, so we're going to get to Miss Texas in a minute, but talk about some of the professors or the people at Weatherford College that you remember. I know that there are several that I've heard you talk about. Who comes to mind?
Biology, Mr. Bull.
Merle Bull.
I loved him, and not everyone did. But the way he taught and tested worked for my brain because it was photographic memory. I have a photographic memory, so.
Do you really?
I do. So when he would put out the display of the components that would be quizzed on, I could shut my eyes and see the answers.
I didn't know you had a photographic memory.
It's not great because you remember that day. I don't know that you absorb half of it.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
with medication, I probably could have been a doctor, but without medication, I wouldn't have been a very good doctor. But I can write a script 15 minutes before a performance and can see it in my head when I'm performing it.
Is that what you would do? You would wait till that late to write your script?
Kinda. Yeah.
Wow.
Drove the person I was married to crazy because that just wasn't being organized, and I can't be organized and be funny.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that crazy?
It has to fit the mood of the room, the event,
yes,
whatever's
absolutely.
going on that day, et cetera. But okay, so
that's a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
You came along with me. That's nice.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of scary that I did come along with you. Anybody else at Weatherford College before we move on to Miss Texas?
Oh, I had Mr. Dawson. He was a history teacher.
Okay.
And God bless Mr. Martin.
Martin Brown?
I mean, yeah, Martin Brown.
Yeah.
Because
I've heard you talk about him before.
He saved my life in algebra. Math is not my strong suit, but I had to have that to complete my core.
Yeah.
And God bless him. Oh, and Mr. Fields. Because,
John Fields.
Yes, they didn't have Spanish at Millsap. So when I came to Weatherford, I had to take Spanish for my degree plan, which was communication. You had to have 2 years of Spanish. I had no Spanish at all.
Yeah.
And I went into college Spanish.
That's tough.
It was awful. But again, that photographic memory.
Right.
La, 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 la. It worked.
Wow. So at what point did you qualify? I know that you at least went one time to Miss Texas and was the runner-up.
Right.
How did that work? Did you have to win Miss Palapena County?
I won Miss Mineral Wells my first year. They had a franchise. Mm-hmm.
And then you go from there to Miss Texas and your first shot at Miss Texas.
Right. Which doesn't usually happen. A first-time girl coming in and get first runner-up, that's not usual.
You were first runner-up in your first try at Miss Texas. That is unusual.
Yeah, that was weird.
I assume you won the talent competition that
I did,
year.
yes.
That's
because it was weird. I mean, it was different. It was something that they hadn't seen before. And it wasn't
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure that anytime you did this, was it talent first, and then the other things you had to work on a little bit more because your talent was so good? It was what, you hung your hat on. Am I saying that
Oh,
right?
yeah. That was, yes.
So like your interview and all that,
Yeah, I had to work on that.
But I bet your interview was also came second nature to you because of just your ability to be in front of people and be funny and right?
talk. Just talk.
And talk, yeah.
Sure. But when they asked the hard questions, like the political questions, I did have to work on that. I had a notebook and I had to really work on, because they would ask you political figures, who is this, who is that, what do they do? And it's not just fluff.
Oh, it's like,
oh yeah,
it's almost like a history test.
I had a 3-ring binder. Yeah, it was
current
events. What do you think about this? What if you have to know how to answer the question without offending anyone in the room,
right?
But answer it in a way that makes sense.
So I assume this is the 1981 Miss Texas pageant where you came in first runner-up,
right?
And
first, they got when they found me in Mineral Wells. They have a selection of judges. They come out and they judge you. And the first thing they did when they went to the judges, evaluation after the pageant, the first guy threw a package of M&Ms at me and said, "Eat these. You are too skinny." Of course, they didn't say that after that. I'm good with that now. But I was super, super skinny.
They said you were too skinny.
I was.
Too skinny.
Oh, baby. I was so thin.
Wow.
And so when they went to report back to the chairman of the board, who was Beaton Magnus at the time, they said, "We found a ventriloquist from Millsap." And he said, "You found a what? From where?"
You're talking about the guy over all of Miss Texas.
Right. Beaton Magnus was the chairman of the board of the Miss Texas organization.
Found a what? From where?
Because that wasn't something they usually said. They would say, "We found a piano player from, Hurst Euless Bedford."
Okay, great. Another piano player, yada, yada, yada.
A dancer, a ballerina.
Yeah, blah, blah. This was unusual.
Yeah, it was pretty
And she's so skinny, we gave her some M&Ms.
And don't wear that red dress ever again, is what they told me.
They said that?
Yeah. I mean, it's constructive criticism.
They're trying to help you.
You bet.
Even though you won their competition.
I did.
Now you're going to Miss Texas, and they're trying to help.
They want me to do well there because they're my panel of judges.
Right.
They want their girl they found to win.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
And then the practicing began. But it's not very long between the preliminary and the Miss Texas pageant. I mean, that was like in February, and then I had until July to be ready.
So talk to me about, you finished first runner-up at Miss Texas in 1981. Between there and when you got your second shot.
So the Miss Mineral Wells franchise knew I had a strong chance of winning the next year. And they really wanted me to represent that area because I was a hometown girl. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew me. So they bought a second franchise.
Because you didn't have to be a hometown girl to win that. You could have come in from anywhere.
Yes, you did at that time.
Oh, you did?
It was a closed pageant, which meant you had to be within a 10-mile radius of
that shut down.
Pageant Central.
Oh, my gosh.
It's changed since then. Now most of the locals are open.
They bought a second franchise.
Miss Palo Pinto County.
And that's what you entered and won to get to Miss Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody else won Miss Mineral Wells. And
Sana Warvell.
Okay.
Do you remember her?
I don't.
She just came back from France. She's been Annie Oakley for the last 30 years at Euro Disney.
Wow.
She and I hung out for a year or so, and it was kind of like a vaudeville act because she was a trick roper, like Will Rogers would do, the Texas Skip. And oh man, so talented. She could crack a whip. I'd hold a cigarette in my hand and she'd crack that cigarette out of my hand. She was an extremely talented.
Is this back when you used to smoke cigarettes?
No.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, I've heard you talk about her before. She had a nice career.
Oh,
really nice career.
Very wonderful career. Their family's well known in this area, but she and I would go do appearances together. And I was on the Johnny High show at the time. I'd become a regular. So anytime Johnny would have a big group come in that wanted to see a Texas-style show, who's more Texas than me or Sana?
Yeah.
So we were always on those road shows. We went everywhere.
If people don't know what the Johnny High show was, explain what that was.
That's like a country music review. It's like the Grand Ole Opry. It was totally clean, family atmosphere every Saturday night.
Arlington.
Performers would come in. People like Leanne Womack, Leanne Rhymes, those type of people would come to the stage, practice, get a lot of stage experience, and then just go on to stardom.
They were regulars on that show.
They had been on the stage. Leanne was a regular. Leanne Rhymes.
Yeah.
Leanne Womack had just performed there, and
Right.
Shane McAnally.
Shane McAnally, the top songwriter in all of Nashville from Mineral Wells. So you were part of that. So
That's where I got really the experience I needed.
that's where you honed it.
That's it. Because I had to have a new song every week.
A
new
new
script.
song every week.
A new script every week.
So people would come back every week.
Oh,
and
it's
so
the regular. I mean, not only was the cast regulars, the audience was
I did
too.
not realize that.
It's like a big group of church people that
my
come
gosh.
every Saturday, and
what a great laboratory for you.
it was fantastic. I dream of it now. I'm thinking I didn't know what I had to try out a new character, a new joke, a new.
Yeah.
If it bombed there, it's going to bomb everywhere
Really?
because they were a fantastic audience.
And
Just
they were used to seeing a high level of talent across the board.
Yeah, Johnny knew how to pick them.
Yeah. All right, so you win Miss Palapena County, and then at some point you had a trainer or something that you used to go to. Was it in Fort Worth?
Yeah, Chuck Weisbeck. He called his gym the butcher shop. We trim the fat.
So this is different than the girl that needed M&Ms.
Oh well, they wanted to put muscle on in the right places.
And that was tough, huh?
Yeah,
that was another.
It was a discipline that I had to learn. I
Yeah.
didn't mind it because I was athletic in high school. And,
Yeah, you played high school basketball.
tennis and cheerleading. So,
All of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get honed, you're ready to go. When you went, where was Miss Was it in Fort Worth?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 82 was the
Tarrant
year.
County Convention
There you
Center
go.
before they tore the beautiful stage down.
So since you were first runner-up the year before, did you go into that expecting to win?
Well, your hope is that.
Yeah.
But you also, I went in with a little bit of insecurity because of the feeling that no one liked me. I'm the one to beat.
Oh, they're gunning for you.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's competition.
Did it get catty at all behind the scenes?
No, I didn't experience anything
Really?
like that. No. Mm-mm.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because that's the stereotypical.
Well, yeah, that's what the movies are made
Yeah,
from.
exactly.
Absolutely.
They're trying to get you. They sabotage you. They whatever. Nah, y'all were friends. And,
No, and I was the one to beat because I had been first runner up, and they knew I was on the Johnny High Show as a regular. I kind of had some things going my way, but during that year, from 81 to 82, I had lost my father to bone cancer. So everyone knew that about me. So they kind of were gunning for me, but they were kind of for me because there had been some tragedy in my life.
Yeah.
And so whenever Dave plays that, and you're new, Miss Texas, the crowd goes crazy because of that.
Yeah, you're talking.
They'd lived that experience with me.
You're talking about Dave Cowley on the morning show on the Coyote. He'll often play the soundbite, the clip from when they announced you as the Miss Texas winner, and the crowd goes so nuts they drown out. You can hardly hear the words Gloria Gilbert.
Yeah,
because they're going so nuts. And I never that context for me never. I didn't realize that was part of it.
Yeah,
the way they felt about you and what you had been through.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Because when I went my first year, my dad was hospital. He's in the hospital bed. He stayed there for 18 months with this cancer junk, and then by the time I competed again the next year, he wasn't here.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like I said, they were kind of not for me, but they were kind of for me.
Yeah.
So
right.
it was kind of a win-win.
Talk about that moment. How you felt when you were named Miss Texas.
Oh my gosh, that's the best moment ever. It's almost like the moment that you become a mom. It's just something.
Yeah.
An incredible moment in your life that you'd set a goal for and you had reached that goal. And honestly, I wanted to be Miss America, but I really wanted to be Miss Texas. I mean, that was my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I did want to be Miss America, sure, why not? But I still got to come home and be Miss Texas. That was all I ever dreamed of.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And how did your life change?
Oh my gosh, doors opened and opportunities, and just continued with the Johnny High Show. I was on that show for 17 years as a regular every Saturday night. That's a long time.
That's a long time. Long time.
to come up with new material and all.
Yeah.
We went to inaugural ball. The whole Johnny High show went
For which president?
for the Bush.
George Herbert Walker Bush. The first Bush.
The first Bush, yes. Got my picture made with them, and just neat stuff like opening act for Lee Greenwood or Ronnie Millsap, I should have written it down.
You really should sit down and write down.
I should. Yes. I
Well,
should.
talk about Bob Hope. You worked with Bob Hope.
I did. This guy called me and he said, "Hey, Gloria, this is so and so. I'm down in Beaumont, Texas. We were wondering if you'd come and they'd seen me MC the Miss Texas pageant because I did that for 25 years on.
You emceed Miss Texas for 25 years.
Yes, on a lot of it was live TV. Some of it wasn't, but yes. So he called me. He said, "We saw you MC the Miss Texas pageant. We want to know if you come down and MC a show down here for Bob Hope." And I went, "What? Who? What Bob Hope?
Who is this?
Do I know you?" No. And he
Come
said,
down here where?
Beaumont, Texas.
Okay.
Bob Hope would do a fundraiser every year for Hughley High School.
Why?
He had created it. He had been sent there many years in a row for Texaco. It was a sponsorship that he had. It was a requirement of his contract.
Okay.
So they had, for special needs kids, they would go to 8th grade in this school that he was doing a fundraiser for. And he said, "Well, where do they go after that?" And they said, "We don't have a high school for them." And he said, "You're going to." So he would come in every year. Even he wasn't under contract anymore.
Yeah.
Texaco was over. He would come in every year and do a fundraiser for that high school for those kids. And he and his wife. And it was just amazing. And he brought Marie Osmond, the piano player, Floyd Kramer.
And you met all these
Ricky
people.
Skaggs. And it's just like, what am I involved in here? How did I get here?
If you're a youngster listening to this and you don't know who Bob Hope is, spend some time, look him up, look on YouTube, Google, whatever. He's an icon. Was an icon. And what kind of guy was he?
Oh, he was the most genuine. He was so charitable. He was so
I love that.
real and most engaging. He sat down, he took a picture with me, signed an autograph for me. Just Bob. And
That's
Dolores
incredible.
was his wife, and she sang on the show as well. And oh my gosh, we just had such a great. And I did it a couple of years, and I don't know. It's just so weird to have that opportunity to be with all those folks.
Amazing. We're talking to Gloria Gilbert. Let's talk about Miss America. Where was it?
Atlantic City.
How long after you won Miss Texas did you enter Miss America?
July to September. You only have that long to get ready.
Quick. Okay.
Yeah. So a first-time girl coming in and winning Miss Texas would be difficult to make sure she was ready for Miss America.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's why it doesn't usually happen. You're not ready. And I don't really think I was ready, but you couldn't have said, "Gloria, I want you to lay out a year. I don't want you to enter the pageant this year." After I'd won first runner-up.
Oh, yeah.
I probably could have used that growth, maturity, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was in Atlantic City, and quite an experience because that auditorium was like nothing I had ever seen in my whole life. I mean,
giant auditorium.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's like, I guess it was, I don't know where it was, off the boardwalk in Atlantic City. I don't even know what it was called anymore. It's been so long ago.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible experience. Wink Martindale was one of my judges. I do remember him. His first question to me was, "Hey, Miss Texas, talk Southern for us." I hadn't prepared for that stuff.
Talk Southern for us.
3-ring binder of all the political stuff I was working on. So,
what did you say? Do you remember?
Oh, probably, "Hey, y'all." I don't know what I said. Here I'm trying, when I won, when I was first runner-up, I went to the chairman and I said, "What do I have to do to win?" He said, "Well, you need to take diction classes." Because I was a little naive kid out of rural Millsap. Okay, so I'm trying to get rid of that country accent.
Right.
And he asks me to talk Southern first sentence. And I'm like,
talk Southern. Well, why don't you just listen to me talk just regularly? Because I am Southern. I am Texan. But whatever.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I didn't get in the top 10, but I won a talent award which was very important to me because that's, like you said, that's what I hung my hat on all
Yeah.
those years because I had that variety and that unusual part of me.
Does that mean you won the talent competition?
I won one of, I think there were 5.
Different talent awards they had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a pretty big deal.
It was a big deal to
A
me.
really big deal. Miss,
Yeah.
Miss America.
Yes. And that comes along with scholarship and that type of thing. Miss America is always related to scholarship. And I didn't pay but for, I think, 9 hours of my higher education due to the scholarship program.
It's incredible.
And that's why I entered, because my dad was ill and I couldn't do anything about it or help. But I could enter these pageants and win scholarship money to help with my higher education.
So that was really one of the big, you know, and going back to something, I guess I never really thought about the fact that you being from Millsap winning Miss Texas was kind of a big deal. Like, did most of the winners come from larger cities?
You know, they did. There was a Miss Lubbock, a Miss Fort Worth, a Miss Dallas.
I hadn't really thought about that because that, you know, Millsap was even smaller back then.
It was so small.
Yes. You had 40 people in your class.
Well, one of the gals that was Miss Panola County was Linda Davis, who's the mom of Lady A.
She was a recording star herself.
She sang with Reba.
Yeah.
She was a small town, Panola County.
Yeah. Wow.
There were small, I mean, Pampa and those places like that. And if they're, like I said, if it's a closed pageant, those are your hometown girls.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why it came from larger cities, because they just had a larger pool from which to work.
Yeah, and you know what? When you have a hometown girl like that, the whole town gets behind you. Mineral Wells and Weatherford and Millsap and Santo and Lipan and everybody.
They were going nuts, I bet.
They were so excited that someone from their area was representing them.
Yeah.
Not somebody from Dallas or Euless coming in. And that's how it is now.
Okay, talk about you performed, and I don't know if this is after Miss Texas. I assume it was. You performed a lot, and one of the things you did was like a circuit in Iowa. What's that about?
Well, I got an agent, and when you have an agent, they showcase you in different formats. So I showcased in Dallas, and I guess it was for, I don't know what opportunities there were, but he actually booked me on the Iowa Fair Circuit for 4 weeks one summer.
Iowa Fair Circuit.
Yes, and it taught a lot.
Any idea how many times you performed in those 4 weeks? Almost every day?
Oh, 2 or 3 times a day.
2 or 3 times a day for 4 weeks?
Pretty good. And my mother was my sound man, which was so funny. We had more tales to tell after that trip. Just traveling tales that nobody would think was funny but us. Getting food poisoning and having to drive from one town to the next because the fair starts. And they all are scheduled so entertainers could travel the circuit.
And plus the carnies.
Yeah. I didn't want to forget them.
Did you meet any of those guys?
I did not. But you know what? At some fairs, there's a stage, and I'm booked as free grounds attraction. And I learned about how to attract a group of people over to my area so I could perform.
Oh, okay.
Because you just start performing.
Yeah.
Nobody's sitting there, even though it's posted
they want
everywhere.
to see the bearded lady or go
They'll
get some cotton candy or whatever. Yeah.
I'm just telling you, you talk about paying your dues.
Yeah.
I think the final straw, the final thing that made me cry in all of the problems I had in those scheduled events, I drove up to the area where I was supposed to perform, and this was my stage. A flatbed trailer that had actually been probably eaten by termites because there were holes in the trailer. And it was under a tree, which is nice. At least there was shade. But the microphone was swung over a limb and hanging down there for me to...
I can see it right now in my head.
It looked like a noose. I'm like...
Just hanging there.
Ma!
You're like, this is not what I signed up for here, agent. That's fantastic.
It was awful, but I remember it, and you know what? You just have to make the best of things.
Yeah. You had an admirer or two, and one that would travel from different states to see you, right?
I was on the MC circuit for a while. Different pageants would have me come in and do their state pageants. So I MC'd Missouri, Miss Missouri pageant, and then I was scheduled to go to Nebraska and Wisconsin. And some guy just thought I was cool. I don't think it was anything bad. It was just that he thought I was neat. He admired me so. He followed me to the other pageants from Missouri to Nebraska and was there. And it was a little unnerving.
Yeah. Did your spidey senses go off a little bit?
Well, I thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I told the executive director of all the pageants, and they had some security keep their eye on him. But honestly, I think I had one admirer in my whole life that really thought I was cool. And he got a strong, don't you bother her.
Really?
Yeah, well.
And that was it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he had anything bad toward me. He even made a little plate for me of me performing in Missouri and made it for me and presented it to me.
Like a picture of you on a plate?
On a plate. So it was just kind of mild, but that was my only stalker.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't any big deal, but I remember it.
Do you have any idea how many times you've performed in your life? Could you put a number to it?
Could not.
Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands.
Oh, sure, thousands.
When all the Johnny Highs
thousands.
And all the,
yes.
got to be thousands.
Yes, absolutely, because I did Johnny High on Saturday, but oftentimes I would go out and do other performances. I did every chamber in the Panhandle. I've performed at. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Spearman, Pampa, Amarillo, everywhere in the Panhandle. They liked me. Booker. I've even been to Booker.
You're big in the Panhandle.
Ooh, yeah, they like me a lot.
Wow. That's really cool. So at some point you went to TCU.
I did.
I don't know if it was after that experience or kind of during, but graduated from TCU, and you had 4 kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you continued performing, because if you kept doing Johnny High all those years, it had to be
doing
during
Johnny,
your mom years.
Mm-hmm, I kept emceeing the pageant. I kept performing. I kept going.
Give me your kids' names again.
Brittany, Blake, Matthew, and John Michael.
And which one is the new dad?
Matthew.
Matthew has brought you a grandson now.
Little Shepherd.
Your first grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, he's nearby, so you get to spend a lot of time with him.
He is in Fort Worth, right?
That's tremendous.
It's a lot of fun.
That's tremendous. You've been very involved. You won the Athena Award from the Parker County Chamber. You were on the Parker County Chamber board. We can go through all those local things that you do. You work at First Bank, Texas now.
I do.
And part of their team. And you work with us weekday mornings on the morning show on 88.5, 102.5, The Coyote. And that was your degree back at TCU, right?
That's right.
Broadcasting
Radio,
degree.
TV, film.
It's been a while since you'd done any of that, but
I had
all the performing.
I also had an agent that booked me in commercials and infomercials that type of thing. So I did keep up with that.
So the commercials were radio, television?
You know, I had a commercial in Amarillo, and it was for Chamberlain Motor Company. I had it for 10 years. Jared Moore, Whitestone Premium Meats, came up to me and he goes, "Have you been on TV?" I went, "Mm-hmm." He goes, "I'm from Clarendon." I went, "Clarendon." I went, "Oh, it's downhill all the way." And he went, "You're that girl." And that was the audio logo they used every commercial.
Wow.
Chamberlain Motor Company. It's downhill all the way.
And you're on there for like 10 years.
10 years. And he saw me and he knew exactly who I was.
You're probably like a goddess in the Panhandle.
Oh, I don't think so.
You could go to Clarendon right now and like run the town.
No.
Everybody knows who you are.
No, they're all gone. They're all, they've moved away. No.
And you're still performing today.
I am.
You do gigs all the time. You do a lot of charity things. And I know that things like, breast cancer prevention and it's big to you because of your sister.
And my mother, I have 2 sisters and a mother and an aunt that had breast cancer. So
and that's very near and dear to your heart.
That's right.
To give back that way.
I like to work for that fight.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an important fight. Well, this has been a fun conversation. I hope you had fun.
I did have fun. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Weatherford College, I have to mention one more person that made a difference in my heart. Not only Dwayne Durrett, but Arthur Stockstill.
I thought you would mention Arthur
That's
Stockstill.
who I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Arthur Stockstill. During the time I went to Weatherford, especially that fall, the transition of a barely 18-year-old girl coming to college, and then my mom and dad had moved down to MD Anderson and were staying there for cancer treatment for him. Arthur Stockstill heard me cry, I guess, every other day for about 4 months just because I was overwhelmed. Well, Arthur signed me up for 21 hours my first semester.
Oh, my gosh, Arthur.
He almost
what are you
killed
doing to
me.
this girl?
And 20 hours the second semester. Because in my mind, you went to school all day because that's what I did in high school.
Right.
Wow.
Doesn't quite work that way in college.
It almost
You
ended
found
me.
it.
So
Right.
I would even take Homer into the admin office and talk to Arthur, in my ventriloquism way. And Homer got after Arthur quite a bit.
Yeah, Homer will say things that Gloria might not say.
I would never say that. And the funny thing is, I don't even think of it. That's the weird part, unless he's with me. And then he thinks of it. It's just a really cray.
Yeah, there is an edge to Homer, your ventriloquism buddy. There's a definite edge. Well,
but Arthur was like a second dad to me, and I think of him with such fond memories, and I'm so grateful that he was at Weatherford College.
I know he will hear this.
I hope so.
So get to enjoy that. Gloria, thanks for all you do, and I appreciate your time. And, man, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I will do my best. Thank you.
Thank you. That's another edition of Coyote Tales. You can find previous and future editions of this podcast on the Coyote smartphone app, the Coyote radio station. Click on podcasts and you'll find your way there. Or go to the Weatherford College YouTube page. You'll find them there. For Weatherford College and for the Coyote radio station, I'm Brent Baker.